So this is a little creativity tip and a couple of practical strategies that I've picked up over the years while I've been developing. When I'm making a game and I am right in it and I'm programming and I'm focused and I'm creating lots of shit and working long hours, those moments can be good because I get a lot done, but it's a double-edged sword where, because I'm so focused in on something, I can't see the big picture of what I'm doing, and it becomes hard to see alternative ways of approaching a problem. And being caught on that treadmill of productivity, must move project forward, must do things, must create stuff, can actually be very counterproductive, because when you're stuck in that loop, you can't see better ways of approaching the same problem and original solutions to a problem, or even just creative, unique ideas that would make a project better. And so what I like to do is once a week, roughly, or whenever I feel like I need to do this, is I schedule a work day and I basically just don't touch my computer at all, and instead of programming, I just sit and I think. And it's important that this isn't on a weekend, it's important that this is a work day, because what happens during this day is it's a receptive, sort of slower paced day, but it shouldn't be confused with a day of rest. Because I think resting days on weekends or however often you rest is important just for the sake of rest. And what happens on this, whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday or whatever day I'm doing this thinking, it shouldn't be confused with rest, even though it looks restful from the outside, because it looks like you're idling and it looks like you're not doing any work because you're not at your computer, but it's actually one of the most important days where you need to be rested in order to have those ideas come through. So it's important that you treat these days like a work day, because they are. Even though you're just sitting there and thinking and it looks like you're doing nothing. So what I do on these days is, you could think of them as like a planning day, but I'm not actively planning and I'm not actively doing anything. That doesn't mean things aren't done though, and that's a very subtle but important distinction. What happens on these days is I sit with a notepad or with a phone where I take notes, and instead of actively trying to plan and impose a fucking strategy or create something, is a better way to think of it is I listen. I sit there and what I do is I listen for corrections that need to be made to the way that I'm approaching a project. So what this might look like is I might sit out in the sun, for example, and I'll have a notepad with me, and I have no particular agenda at all. I have my phone off and no distractions and no people coming in and out or anything like that. It's very important that you have a quiet space. But what I do is I just sit there and basically I just let my mind wonder about my project. So I sit there and I literally just listen. I listen for thoughts that come in and for images that come to my mind. And what happens is, after you sit there for a little while, provided that you're well rested and all of this, you'll suddenly realize that you've been approaching something in your project all wrong. And in fact, there's actually a much better way to do it that'll probably save time, is smarter, is more fun, fits in better with the theme and all these things. But the trick is, it's that you can't think up these good ideas. You don't think them up, they sort of come down. It's like you listen to them, and suddenly they're just there, and then you just see them. So when they come through, I think about it for a little while, I let it sort of run its course in my mind, and when I feel like I get down to the essence of what the idea is, then I write them in a little book. So each of these ideas in here I've highlighted in the pink, and then I've got little checkpoints of things that I could actually do in the editor tomorrow, for example. It's sort of like a big picture overview of course corrections I need to make to my project, and then little actionable things that I could actually implement in the engine. But it's important to do this sort of thinking and this planning when you're not working, because it's a different sort of state of mind that you've got to be in. Like, it's one thing to program and be focused, and it's another thing to be relaxed and open and receptive to ideas. And if you jumble those two up, you end up being bad at both. I find anyway. But these notes that I've got here, this is probably what I'm going to spend the rest of the week doing. And basically all of these pages, see all those sticky notes up there, those are all different ways of me formulating these last final pages that I got to. Basically, I write out these plans again and again and again as they come up in my mind, and I do it in different ways, and new ideas come and whatever. And then eventually, after I sit there for a couple of hours and I daydream and dawdle and go for a walk or like whatever, all of the pieces, they sort of start to come together. And you get to the essence of what it is that you're trying to do. And you get this nice, clear, concise list, a minimal list of things that you're going to change about your project. Or things that you could do, or a new direction that you're going to take the project in. And it's very clear, it's very simple, and it's concise, and it's practical in the sense that I can literally go and program an achievement system into my engine, and like here's the list of things that I want it to do and roughly how I'm going to do it. So if I was to just summarize everything that I just said, schedule a day to think and just contemplate and to let ideas and insights come to you. Spend that day with no agenda. So you don't have any goal that you need to do or thing that you need to create. You just allow yourself to listen for whatever you need to hear, basically, and just let it come to you. No distractions. So you want to be in a quiet space, and you want to have your phone off and shit like that. And then have like a book or something that you can jot these things down in as they come to you, and then you jot them down, and then you sort of rework them and rework them and rework them, and they refine themselves throughout the day. And sometimes this takes more than one day, but it'll take as long as it takes. If it takes one day, great. If it takes less than one day, that's also great. Sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it takes months, right? It's just a different sort of phase of the creative process. So schedule a day, no programming, no distractions, allow the insights to come to you instead of imposing a plan on your day. Write them all down, rework them, and then eventually what happens is you'll know when you're ready to get back into the engine, because it'll be crystal clear what the next steps are. So apply this when you feel like you're getting frustrated with your project, or if you feel like you're not really sure where to go next, or if you feel suddenly disinterested in your project as well. Because usually disinterest and frustration are a sign that you've strayed from the original vision, or you've lost touch with the original reason that you started to work. So what these days are about is coming back to that and remembering why you're developing. But not just remembering, it's like you're also recreating the motivation. Because all these plans here, they look very different to the plans I had at the start of the project. Because what happens is the plans that you make at the start of a project inevitably become stale and old because you made them ages ago, and the project begins to evolve and change. And if you don't have these days where you open yourself up to course corrections, you end up just forcing yourself to do this stupid fucking piece of shit that you planned ages ago that's actually not what the project is anymore. So think of it as like a course correction day where you put aside all your ideas of what you think the project should be, and instead you listen and open yourself up to alternatives. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, subscribe, drop a like and a comment and all that. It helps me a lot. Alright, see you next time, guys.